This is the finished, painted, full body for Homie's Lowrider ST. It's been many months of anticipation. Super excited to have this thing wrapped up. Springle put a lot of effort into making this thing a little bit different and something close to what the customer was asking for. So let's take a look at some of the things that we did on this thing. We wanted to stay in more of the earth tone type feel on this bike, so the color choices were super important. Took a long time to fine tune all of that. So we stuck with more of an earth tone feel with some browns and coppers and bronze, and I think we really nailed the feel of this bike. It really is a very pretty paint job in person, and you really got to see it in person to fully grasp all that. So Springle, you want to talk about some of the detail that went into this thing?
Colorways and just making the bike flow together. As you'll see whenever it gets put together, we're super pumped to see. With the chassis colors and all the accessory colors on the bike, everything had to work together. So some of the colors are pulled from the bike, from the chassis into the graphics. A lot of pop on the gold leaf, as you'll see whenever this thing comes together. It's a gold leaf with a lot of airbrushing, a lot of candy over the top of it. Major concentration on the flow, just making it all work together, but we're not dealing with a huge bagger. So we kept it a little minimal so it wasn't too busy and let the bike kind of speak for itself after you see the graphics.
No doubt the focal point on this bike is going to be this section here. It's really pretty, it's really attractive. A lot of people are going to be talking about the gold leaf with all the airbrushing and the effect on that. My personal favorite part is the smoke effect, just because it's simple, it's classic, but it really works well for the customer, which is Homie. And if anyone knows Homie, he's all about that smoke. So we'll show you just a couple quick things on it, and then we're going to put this thing together. All right, so we wanted to keep the bags pretty simple. We just brought all the graphics right through where the logos go, smoothed out the back side of these things and painted the back side, so when it's all put together, there's no raw plastic anywhere. Side covers are stock, except for this little indent here. We needed this for the shock that we chose. This is a real special piece though. It's custom, full custom dash. It's all new sheet metal in here. Wanted it to be a major focal point of the bike. So this is gonna look super sick on the dash, or I'm sorry, on the tank. And all the rest of it is ready to go. Fenders are on. The rear fender's been cut and smooth and shortened, and we're ready to put this thing together. Check it out. We got this thing wrapped up. Got my right hand man here, Steve, and we're super pumped on how this thing turned out. Wanted to go over some of the details because this build is very detailed, over the top. Every bolt's been replaced. Every part has been customized, changed. It's really a true balance of what we really like to do to bikes here at Forever Rad. So Steve had a huge part in creating this bike, and just wanted to talk about some of those details. So
yeah, the paint on this, like, dude, this turned out super killer, and especially like in the light, you know, between the smoke and then the copper gold inlay is killer. So we took this whole bike down to the frame, and with a Softail ST, like, we didn't really know. We like to do some like frame modifications before we just throw it to the powder coater. You know, you're gonna clean it up. So we went through and like all the casting on the sides, we smoothed that all out. On the frame up front, you have a big rubber area for all the wiring to go into. So we put that, or welded that shut, redid the whole frame bracket, internally wired and internally plumbed the whole frame section. And yeah, as far as frame modifications, cleaned up all the wiring that's all down and underneath the exhaust area, and everything got coated a color. There's not one bolt on this bike that we didn't touch.
So making all those little changes to cleaning up the wiring and the plumbing, when you're willing to take it down to the frame, that's the time. You got to really go all out. And that's kind of what sets these types of builds apart from your average motorcycle.
Yeah, because it's not like something that we can figure out later on. It's like we had to build the whole bike before we ever send it out to a coating, before we send it, because it's like I can't grind on the frame and change something and weld it shut and just be like, oh, we're going to put a black touch-up pen on there later on. It's like it's got to be perfect or it's not. Right.
There's a lot of pre-planning that goes into that. It's definitely a vision. It's an acquired talent that just doesn't happen overnight. And it really showcases itself, especially when you take the time to kind of walk around this bike and make a few laps, and you're always going to pick up on new details, even just on the frame itself.
Yeah, on the frame, and then we're getting into like the body details, with the special dash, where it doesn't have the bolts that go down in. Right. Most people they're going to overlook it. It's the same shape, but it's just, that's completely different. So you knew that we were going to do some sort of paint up in the center of the dash, so it had to showcase that without having any obstructions. Then the rear fender, smoothing that out and getting the license plate all set up, the tail lights hidden and the front turn signals, getting those hidden. Right. It's all these tiny little details that we've been doing that just kind of like bring the whole package together.
Right. I like to do things that when someone owns the same motorcycle and they see this thing and they kind of start to think, oh, well, mine could look just like this. And then they realize, wait a minute, my dash doesn't look anything like this, So areas like that, or even things like smoothing and shortening a rear fender up a little bit, even if you take an inch off the fender, it's going to have people scratching their heads.
Yeah, they're like, why does that look different?
Exactly.
I love that stuff when we do that things with bikes, when it goes, what's different about this?
Right.
And you're like, well, it's tweaked a little bit here, it's moved a little bit there, smoothed here.
Yep, it's all those little details that really set a bike apart. And of course, as you've seen, we obviously had Springle kill it on the paint job. We designed this paint job with him, and I bet we did 5 spray outs on this thing before we finally were like,
that's it.
This is it. We had to try numerous things you have to fail a few times before you can succeed, Right. So I'm really happy with the choices we made. And, I had a lot of input on it. You had a lot of input on it. Springle, of course. You bring 3 talented minds together, you can really accomplish so much more.
Yes.
And this thing's a perfect example of that. So super pumped on the visuals of that. But of course, like anything we build here, this thing does not disappoint anywhere you go. So even when you get into the front suspension, let's talk about front and rear suspension, swing arm, that kind of stuff. Like it's all really, really top of the line parts, but we still tore it all down, coated it, changed this. That's how we like to make things. So we could probably talk a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah, because on the front suspension, ended up doing gold DLC tubes that were recoated stock tubes, and then it's full Cerakoted front end, and then the triple trees are from My Machinist. Those are all Cerakoted with the pullback in the trees, and then
don't forget that little Easter egg homie logo that we put in there, right?
Get the little custom engraved homie logo in there. The bottom, stanchions of the fork tubes, those are all powder coated with Brembo radial calipers. And then I forget who makes the Green Brother Designs smooth flush caps on that. So that's about the front end with a 2-over Big Bear cartridge. Mm-hmm. And then on the rear end, we ended up doing a Speed Dealer swing arm, custom Big Bear shock for it, and the radial Brembos and Lindahl rotors.
Yep, and everything that we did is super neat and tidy. The brake line, even we're adding holes that didn't exist just to be able to hide a brake line, and you don't want to see something flopping down there. Color matching things to where just the rotors have some black on them. the little pops of gold on the banjo bolts just because it's really gangster, you know?
It's just like that little gold tooth, you know?
Yeah, we don't need to slap gold parts all over a bike. We just want a couple of things to really kind of make it stand out. And there's a lot of little stuff like that. And no doubt the suspension, the height is perfect. The stance is really everything. But it's going to work.
Yeah, we want
freaking awesome, right?
Yeah, we want it to perform well. That's we're big about performance around here. You know, we love to make things look super pretty, but they gotta work. You know, if you're gonna be able to throw the bike into a corner, like it's gotta work and it's gotta be stable and it's gotta be set up for the rider in mind. You know, and this one was really set up for the rider, a little bit shorter on the bars, and you know, just get all that set up.
Yeah. The seating really puts you in the pocket. The suspension is going to do exactly what you want it to do. That's really one thing we take a lot of pride in is the perfect ergonomics and stance and visuals, something that's really, really pretty, but will still handle anything you throw at it. There's nothing cooler than being able to beat on something, even though it looks like it should just be an art piece, you know?
Exactly.
And we take a lot of pride in that here. So from there, we kept it really calm on the motor. You know, we got killer suspension, big brakes. It's got a good little cam and a tune and an HPI pipe on it, HPI air cleaner, HPI throttle body. Makes just enough to get rowdy and have fun. The bike is light enough, so we don't need all this crazy big bore power on a bike like this. This thing is going to stay reliable. We shouldn't have to worry about things down the road like what we normally do when we go all out with big horsepower.
Yep.
So the customer really wanted a bike he can ride cross country. And so we threw just enough at it. Mm-hmm. We also threw some more bulletproof parts inside of it, right? Yep. We have our solid tappet cuffs and a solid compensator ramp and things that are going to make this thing a little bit more bulletproof. If things, you know, you start getting more aggressive and beating on it, it'll hold up to kind of anything you throw at it.
Yeah.
So those are the things you don't see inside of a motor that we never skimp on either, right? But from there, you and I went back and forth on the coatings of the engine and the frame and the hardware and all that stuff. I think we came up with something kind of cool. What do you think?
Yeah, so like with the coatings, we ended up going with this copper rock. It's kind of like a hammered texture finish, and then ended up doing the Santoro Fabworks Chachos on every bolt. I mean, you get out and underneath it, like all the oil pan bolts are done, all the case bolts. Pretty much any exposed bolt on this bike that could run the Chacho has it, and if not, it's got a stainless hardware, you know. Mm-hmm. So running with that, and then, you know, the feet controls, we ended up doing all the boosted brad, and we thought, you know, with the brakes, having a little bit of anodized black, you know, the brown and black just popping against each other, like, we're like, you know, let's just run with that. Ended up turning out really good.
Brown and black is always a really classy combo. It's hard to pull those off together. I think it works really well. And of course, we're always running boosted Brad parts. We love Brad, so we have his risers as well, his fender struts with the matching windows. So even if you wanted to run this without bags, you're going to have a little bit of Brad's touch all the way through the bike too. So that kind of is another thing that we like to do here is stick with people that we really love and people that we trust who make quality parts, made in America, all the things that we're about, you know? Yes. So it's always fun having specific people like that, Santoro and Brad and my machinist. And, you know, that makes these builds even more special.
Yes.
So other than that, I mean, what more can you say? This thing is just gorgeous. Can't wait to start ripping on it. We're ready to test it out. It does run. I mean, I guess we could fire it up and let it eat for just a minute if you want to hear it. What do you think? Should we do that? Cool. I think we even got a Harley with no codes this time. We got custom lighting front and back, and all the wiring's been cut and extended. And so far we're winning. So we'll have to start testing it and see how she does, but here we go.
Yeah, I definitely say this bike's been a whole winner on all around income. Like everything, just fit, finish, performance, braking, travelability,
I mean, yeah, we even were able to keep the backrest on it. We made a couple changes there to make all that happen. And, it's going to be the true form and function motorcycle. So we plan on doing a lot of riding on this year. We're going to be getting it to the owner. And I know he's going to be riding it to Sturgis and loving it. So we're really excited to hurry up and wait for spring.
Right.
It's unfortunately a little cold to be riding right now, but it's ready to rock and roll, and super proud on how it turned out, man. So
absolutely.
Anyways, that's about it. So let's finish some more bikes, right? We got a busy winter ahead of us, so appreciate it, and thank you for the support, and great job, Steve.
Thank you.